welcome to this video. I'm Julia and I want to create some lovely Procreate summer illustrations with you. I will share my whole process from sketching to color thumbnailing to finally painting in Procreate. But first, let's do a brainstorm. Before I even get into Pinterest for inspiration, I will write down what I associate with the word summer. That way I make sure that I'm not too influenced by any pictures I might have seen about this topic. The next part then is to get some inspiration. Now, I already know I want to create several single illustrations which altogether form a summer collection. So I'm looking for these types of collections, but also maybe for some cute children's illustrations for another summer-themed illustration. I will then create my mood board. And for this, I very recently started to use the app Visref because it is much easier to navigate and zoom in, etc., as if you just created a mood board on Pinterest. I will download all the photos I found on Pinterest and then import them into Visref. Last step before I actually start sketching is creating my color palette. I used the eyedropper tool to pick colors from this photo and then add some more colors I feel I also need. And now, sketching time. I create a 400 by 400 millimeter canvas here and will later make that much smaller because I very quickly run out of layers. The DPI is 300 and the color profile is RGB. Now, the two main things I want you to take away from my sketching process is, firstly, I do use reference photos. Now, for the longest time, I kind of felt guilty about this. Being completely self-taught, I also thought as a proper illustrator, you have to be able to draw everything without a reference. But by watching a lot of Procreate tutorials over the last 2 years, I learned that nearly every illustrator uses reference photos. Now, for these summer illustrations, I also did some without using reference, like the ice cream, for instance, but I think also the beach towel and the dress. But all the other sketches are based upon reference photos. The second thing is, don't be afraid of ugly sketches. I very vividly remember that, especially when I started drawing, at this point in my life I was already 32 and hadn't been drawing in more than 20 years, I was so quickly disheartened if my drawings didn't look great immediately. But if you don't want to have the line work appear in your illustrations later on, you can very well just do rough and ugly sketches. And the magic will happen later on, when you paint layer after layer of color, adding textures, using blending modes, etc. So, use reference photos as much as you like and need, and do as many rough and ugly sketches as you can. The brush I'm using for sketching here is the 6B pencil. It's a Procreate Native brush from the sketching section. And I feel that for sketching, it really doesn't matter which brush you use. So I absolutely recommend using the Procreate Native sketching brushes. Now, the last thing I will do is what I call color roughs. I will put a new layer underneath my sketch layer and just very loosely paint in the different colors. Any kind of brush will do here because I won't use these in my final illustrations. So it is just for me to see where I want each color to go and to make sure that the colors are balanced. So, for example, I want to avoid having too much red or blue or picking maybe too many light colors. And when I'm happy with the result, I will hop on to the next step. Now, before I'm actually going to paint all of these different elements for my summer collection, I'm going to arrange them on the page because I don't want to be moving them later on when they are already done. Because in Procreate, everything that you move around or turn around or flip horizontally, vertically, tends to lose a little bit of quality. Now, if you're working with Photoshop, the only problem is resizing. So if you're, enlarging something quite a lot, then it gets pixelated. But with Procreate, things can actually also get pixelated just by moving them around or turning them around. So I will do all that now. Now you can see I've got them here on separate layers. This is my sketch layer, this is my color layer. And what I want is now to select them both. So you can select a layer by just swiping it to the right and then hit group. And now if I use the selection tool and I use it on a group, what will happen is that I will slowly draw around this. I can arrange, oh, that's not what I want. I can arrange the sketch and the color. So 2 layers at a time. Yes, and so I will just try to find a nice balanced layout now. So I'm actually not very good at arranging things on a page. This is why I could never be a designer. I never quite know where to put things, but what I keep in mind here is that I want the colors to be balanced out, so I don't want all the red colors to be in one corner and all the yellow colors in the other corner. And I'm noticing here, I was quite unsure about this bikini. I'm noticing here that I don't have a lot of this orange color, just 3 tiny objects. So I might, yes, actually I think I will make that orange again. Just set that to alpha lock, then I can paint on it without having to worry about it leaving the lines. Now you can see, just paint like that. And I make it orange again. And let me see. Yes, that's better. Even though I love this blue color, it's one of my favorite colors, but it doesn't help if it's too much. Okay, so let me go on. This was part 1 of my summer collection illustration series, and in part 2 you will just see my painting process, and I will share some tips and tricks along the way, all about clipping masks, alpha lock, painting with different brushes and using textures and so on. So I hope we will see you there.